Hello everyone, and welcome to my top my top 10 spring fragrances of 2012. This is going to be a list where I basically go over the top 10 fragrances for spring that I personally like. It's not a top 10 most complimented, anything like that. These are the fragrances that I wear in the spring. No one else is anything like that. Now, just a couple of ground rules to go over before I dive into it, and that's, the first one is, well, what is spring? Spring to a lot of people is, different things depending on where you're from. I'm from the New York area, from New York City basically, and what spring is to me is anywhere between 50 degrees Fahrenheit and around 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So kind of a wide range in there for what I consider spring. Recently we've had pretty good weather, so it's a perfect time to actually release this, and I wanted to release this on March 21st, 22nd, so perfect time. Now, the second thing is, what am I actually looking for in a spring fragrance? I am looking for something that does well in both the heat and both cold. So very similar to fall in that manner, but for spring, I want it to be a little bit upbeat. I want to feel like I want to get out there, play sports, do whatever, go outdoors, enjoy it, enjoy the freshly blooming flowers. There's green everywhere now, grass is everywhere, leaves are back on the trees. That's kind of the scenario that I envision it. So I want something that's going to kind of perk me up and kind of give me a little bit of a kick too. For those of you who know, I like spicy fragrances too, so that comes in as well. For spring, it actually does give me the chance to kind of mix it up as well and kind of get in some fragrances that maybe some might consider a little bit more heavy, but I personally love for the spring. And just one final thing, for some of these fragrances that you may see in here do just as well for spring as they do in the summer as well. That's personally what I think for it. So with that being said, let's just dive right into this. I have two honorable mentions from the top 10 list that didn't quite make the top 10 list. The first one is 212 Men. This is a fantastic fragrance. This is a fragrance that reminds me of freshly cut grass in many ways. It kind of has that freshly mowed grass feel, and feels like spring almost. It has a little bit of spices into it, and it's very smooth, very calming on that tone, and it does really well for the spring. Now it's not worn as much as I would like to, just because I have other fragrances that I wear all the time, but it is up there, and it is a great buy if you're looking for a spring fragrance. You can purchase this. It's not too expensive, I believe now. You can probably get it for around $30, $40. Just look around and you can find a good deal on this. The next honorable mention is a little bit on the other end of the spectrum in terms of price, and it's none other than Creed's Royal Oud. For spring, man, this is a fresh oud. And for those of you who don't know what oud is like a wood, almost like a darker type fragrance. But Creed, who I consider one of the very best houses at releasing fresh fragrances, actually made this into a fresh wood type scent, a really fresh wood type scent. Very fantastic, does well in both the colder weather and when it starts to get a little warmer as well. Really a great fragrance, has a little bit of bergamot, I believe, in it as well too, a little bit of citruses that kind of mix along with it, and just comes across extremely fresh. So didn't quite make my top 10, but it is there. And like I mentioned earlier, this is on the expensive side, and expect to pay around $300 for a 2.5. It only comes in one size of a bottle. If not, you're probably better off getting in on one of the splits that somebody has running around right now. So on to the top 10 list. The very first top 10, can never leave it off any top 10 for spring. I truly believe that this fragrance really epitomizes what spring really is. Just buy it. I'm still just an excellent fragrance, and anyone who collects fragrances, I really highly recommend that they pick this one up. And that is none other than Creed's Green Irish Tweed. Really comes in this black bottle basically that you see here. It says Green Irish Tweed on it. Really simplistic, but smells fantastic. The fragrance reminds me of the Irish hills almost. Obviously, I've never been to the Irish Hills, but this is what I imagine it would smell like if I went there. I know that this smells like almost a hilly type area after it has rained. That's the kind of thing that I get when I smell green Irish tweed, and for that reason, it really is the perfect spring fragrance, more so than anything else. That being said, though, I still like to wear other fragrances more than I do green Irish tweed, and that's why it comes in at number 10. It's an excellent fragrance, but still not better, in my opinion, at least that I like to wear for spring fragrances. So that's green Irish tweed. Expect to pay around $285 for this 4-ounce bottle. You can buy smaller ounces bottles. If you're looking for alternatives for green Irish tweed, check out Bond Number 9's. Man, I forgot that one. Bond Number 9 has one that, I want to say Riverside. No, not Riverside Drive. I'm sorry, it's left my mind. I'll actually put it down in the description or in the comment section what it was that I'm trying to think of. But the other thing is, a lot of people say this also smells like cool water, and I kind of agree. I think it does smell like it. It does smell, it's not an exact carbon copy, definitely not. This is a lot smoother in my opinion and more easy to wear. But green Irish tweed is a nice alternative, and you can go buy that much cheaper for around $20 right now. So for those of you, you know, feel free pick up. Davidoff Cool Water, if that's your other alternative for it. So definitely earns its place at number 10. Coming in at number 9, we have Atelier's Bois Blanche. These are two different sizes. This is actually the refill type sprayer bottle, and this is the small, I believe, 30 ml. So I've been using it primarily from the refill bottle. And you can see I've used quite a lot of, this actually came from a split, but I have used a lot of it, basically. This is basically, the name is Blonde Woods, I believe it is. Bois Blanche, but basically it comes off as a really dry, woodsy type smell that has a little bit of an upbeat kick to it. That's, you know, pretty much why I love this fragrance for spring. I don't really have any comparisons for, you know, any other scents that really smell like this, but this isn't that expensive at all. I kind of take that back. For this size, expect to pay, I think, around $50, I want to say, for 30 ml. So you can buy yourself a small thing of it for $50, or you can, you know, put in more value, and I think this is around 110 or something like that. I could be wrong on that price. So you get a lot more with this value or with this size, but you know, some people may not be willing to pay that much for this much cologne. So in case you know, really actually love this fragrance or want it, I'd probably stick with the smaller size of Bois Blanche. So that's Bois Blanche coming in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, we have Dolce and Gabana, The One. This fragrance, very, very beautiful fragrance, fruity fragrance. It, you know, wears nice and smooth, has a little bit of a spiciness to it. It doesn't come off very strong at all. And some people have complained that it doesn't last as long as well, and I do see what they're saying from it. But for that reason, the heat actually brings out this fragrance quite better than, you know, the cold weather actually does. So this actually does quite well in the heat because it's not too overbearing or anything like that. This I personally love to wear on spring nights. You know, when it starts to, you know, kind of cool down a little bit, and you're looking for something a little bit more you know, close to the skin, or something a little bit more for formal wear, look to Dolce & Gabbana The One. This is a perfect fragrance for that. For this fragrance, expect to pay anywhere between, I want to say, $30 and $60, depending on the size that you're going to get. This is actually the 1.7 of Dolce & Gabbana The One. So at number 8, Dolce & Gabbana The One. Coming in at number 7, we have Gucci Pour Homme 2. This fragrance is actually discontinued. It's a very nice tea fragrance. This bottle is huge, this bottle is heavy, but you know, a lot of people have compared this to some other tea-based fragrances just because You know, they haven't really smelled tea-based fragrances, so I've seen this compared to Tea for Two, for that matter, and I can kind of get that. They're both tea fragrances, but I think they both take a different route for it. This tea-based fragrance kind of smells like black tea almost, that you can kind of get from it. And the black tea is kind of subdued from this one. Or was it Earl Grey? Black tea or Earl Grey. It smells like a very specific tea for it. It really is an excellent fragrance that's very calming, and it has a calming effect on you when you spray it. So I wear this when it's, you know, time to be nice and laid back, or when, you know, there's not much of a rush, or sometimes I actually even wear this into work. I can't actually wait to do the review on this one, but Gucci Pour Homme 2, if you search around at fragrance websites that sell fragrances, you can still purchase this, but this has been discontinued by Gucci, so they no longer produce this. So if you plan on buying this, you want to pick this up as soon as you possibly can before it starts to get a little bit more rare and people start selling it for, you know, exorbitant prices. All right. So that's Gucci Pour Homme 2 coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 was a fragrance that I actually just recently purchased within this first quarter of the year, and that is none other than Andy Towers. Whoops, sorry about the camera. The Air of Desert of the Moroccan Desert. It's L'air du Désert Marocain, I believe. Probably butchering that name, but this is the fragrance right here. Fantastic, spicy fragrance that really has, man, I forgot what here. It's, sorry, I hate doing this. I hate sniffing fragrances right in the middle of a review, just because I expect to know them down part. But, oh, you know what? I don't even have to sniff it because I just smelled it, just opening the cap on it. So it is strong, but at the same time not overpowering. It has almost an incense-like feel to it as well. This is a fragrance that a lot of people have actually said reminds them of church for some reason. It doesn't. For those who kind of grew up in the Catholic Church, for that matter, they said it really reminds them of those incense burnings and stuff like that. But I personally love this fragrance for the spring and for when it starts to, you know, start ramping up in terms of scent. Oh, I'm sorry, in terms of temperature around. So L'air du Désert Marocain is a perfect scent for that. This scent is going to set you back. Hey, man, I forgot the price on this one. I think it's around, it's low 100s. So I want to say 120-ish or something like that. I could be wrong on that. I'll have to double check. But yes, this is Andy Towers, L'air du Désert. L'air du Désert Marocain. I keep pronouncing that wrong. I can never get that right. I am sorry for that. All right, so coming in at number 6, we have a fragrance that, man, I love this one at first sniff, and really an excellent fragrance. None other than Frapin's 1270. Very heavy bottle, very big bottle. This is actually 3.4 or 100 milliliters. Wow, this fragrance, it's got a boozy feel. I love when alcoholic notes are in my fragrance. So it has a rum feel to it. It has raisins in it. Rum, raisins, has spices in it. Wow, it just reminds me a lot of, almost, I hate to say this, because of the rum, because of the raisins, because of the spices, almost like, you know, the Caribbean or pirates, basically. It's kind of what it reminds me of. I know it's strange, and, you know, why would I want to smell like pirates or anything like that, but I really love this fragrance, and for the spring and for, I'm gearing up and getting ready to try this for the summer because I really believe that it'll do well in it. You know, it's not too strong, it's not too heavy, and it really sits on the skin very nicely. You smell really sweet, you smell, it has, I believe it might have some vanilla in it too. I keep forgetting on that one, but very fantastic fragrance. Expect to pay for this one same, I'd say low 100s. I think it's around 140-ish that you can actually purchase this. You can actually purchase this from like Lucky Scent. You can purchase this from Mid New York. There are a couple places that you can actually purchase this one from, but a really fantastic scent. So that's Frapin 1270. Now coming in at number 4, we have a fragrance that I didn't think I was going to like when I first got it, but I actually went on a business trip to California in spring of last year and wore a couple of samplings of this, and I was like, wow, this is perfect for it. At that time, it had been raining a lot, and I just figured I'd throw on something anyway. I didn't want to throw on something too strong just because I happened to have some client meetings at that time, and tried it, and it was perfect. Loved it. It is Bond number 9's Hamptons. Comes in a basic blue bottle. This is the 3.4 bigger size. Wow. This fragrance has floral notes, citrus notes. It comes down as a really soothing and calm scent. This was the fragrance that, like I said, I wore in when it was raining outside, and it was just really perfect for it. And ever since then, it's stuck on my mind, and it has been a mainstay in my spring fragrance collection. Excellent scent, fantastic. I highly suggest anyone who is interested or likes fragrances that are a little bit towards the floral side. It has a little bit of a note that almost reminds me of a metallic note, but it's not the same type of metallic note that most people may be used to or might smell in other fragrances. So it really is a beautiful fragrance. Try it out. If anything, get a Bond, those little Bond number 9 candy samples for it. And even though this fragrance actually is marketed for women, believe it or not, but I truly believe that this is a nice fragrance that does well unisex. Fantastic fragrance. Give it a try. Expect to pay for this fragrance anywhere between for the 3.4, I believe it's around 200-ish, and for the 1.7, expect to pay around, I want to say 140, 150. I can never get the Bond fragrance prices right just because a lot of them are different depending on which fragrance it is. All right. So that's Bond number 9, Hamptons, coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3, we have another Creed. This happens to be my favorite Creed of them all, and it is none other than Creed Aventus. I love Aventus. Many of you know it. Pineapple, woods. It has a freshness to it. I love this scent. It is fantastic. Has a musky kind of feel to it as well. Creed Aventus is the one fragrance that really made me change my mind about Creeds. For those of you who know, I'm not the biggest fan of the fresh summer fragrances because a lot of those fragrances come off to me as a little bit too sharp. That's actually why I wasn't too big on the fragrances like Aqua di Gio, stuff like that. But Creed Aventus is really what warmed me up to Creed fragrances. Had smelled Aventus and decided immediately, wow, love this stuff, gotta have it for spring and summer for that matter. So you can actually probably expect to see this in my summer top 10 list as well. So yes, just keep in mind for that. This is more on the expensive side for the 2.5, I'm sorry, for the 4.0 milliliter, this size, expect to pay the same $285 for Creeds. If it's too expensive, you're probably better off getting into a split for this as well. I don't know any real alternatives for this particular fragrance, but yeah. Creed Aventus, fantastic scent. Sorry, bad camera. Coming in at number 2, it's a fragrance that, if you've watched my videos, you know this fragrance, you know what it is. It's the number 1 from my last year's summer, and that's Bergamote 22 by Labo. Bergamote 22 by Labo. Fantastic scent. It's the very best bergamot, in my opinion, on the market. It has bergamot, woods, really has a really nice soft base that lasts a long time as well on my skin now. Before it didn't last as long as I would like it to, but as I've worn it more and more, I can really detect it and get it a lot longer than I did originally when I first had this fragrance. So beautiful fragrance from Labo. Only downside is the price for it. This is the 1.7. The 1.7 cost me upwards of $150, I believe, for this size. I forgot the exact price that it cost me, but yes, fantastic fragrance from Labo. I highly recommend Bergamote 22. Whenever somebody talks about warm weather scents, I always bring up Bergamote 22. Try this fragrance out. Fantastic. And for my number one spring fragrance, for the most part, this list has been highly, I'd say, between 60-40 kind of split of niche versus designer, or maybe 70-30. Primarily, it's been niche, and that's just because, or what most people consider niche, or on the most or more expensive end, and that's just because, again, I'm not the biggest fan of fresh fragrances, and it starts to take the more, I would say, more thought out fragrances, or the more complex fragrances, to really get me to buy into it. But there was a major exception, and that's at number one for it. It is a designer. I smelled this fragrance and immediately fell in love. This fragrance is the only bottle that has really prompted me to buy a second one, just because I predict that I will use this more than any other fragrance. I have used it more than any other spring fragrance that I have, and I plan on continuing doing it. At one point, it came out that this fragrance was going to be discontinued, and I freaked out almost and was getting ready to buy a bunch, and I found out that that wasn't necessarily true. That is Chanel's Allure Homme Edition Blanche. Wow, this scent is spring. I know early on in the review I said Green Irish Tweed is the perfect spring fragrance. That is an example, but this fragrance to me is spring. I smelled this fragrance immediately and thought spring. This is citrus. This is a creamy, it has a creamy vanilla vibe into it as well. It's got a little bit of a spicy kick onto it, and it has that bergamot in it. Oh man, it's just nice and smooth, just nice and perfect for spring. This fragrance, I actually carry a little decants of it with me when, you know, as spring is rolling around, whenever I'm wearing this fragrance. Fantastic scent. I really cannot emphasize enough that if you have not smelled this scent, get your nose on it, smell it. In fact, I've come few and far between of people who have not liked this scent. This scent is an excellent compliment getter. People love this scent. This scent is also one of the very few that has actually prompted other men that have been around me to remark, well, what is it that you're wearing? I gotta get this stuff, right? That's how good this fragrance is, and that's my little bit of hype, if you will, for it. Edition Blanche is my favorite spring fragrance, and it is not even close, actually. Bergamote 22, I love Bergamote 22. It's a perfect summer fragrance, but in terms of spring, it doesn't hold a candle to Edition Blanche. So Chanel did a fantastic thing with Edition Blanche. You can purchase this anywhere between, I believe it's a little bit more on the expensive side, anywhere between $50 and $85. So not as expensive as the other ones that you saw here, but yeah, it's really, in my opinion, just that good. Give it a try. That's about it. So if you have any questions whatsoever on any of these fragrances, or if you might want to have questions about any alternatives, there are, you know, other spring fragrances that I do wear for it. Just didn't make my top 10 on it. Please feel free, leave me a comment, send me a message, do whatever you have to do. Thank you, everyone. Take care of yourselves and have a great day.